I thought birthdays got quieter after 40. Dinner, a cake, a phone call or two. But this year, the gift my son placed in my hands didn't make a sound, and somehow it said everything. What followed pulled a thread I had tucked away for years, and by the time the sun set, a door I didn't know I'd locked finally opened. It was one of those Georgia afternoons that pretends to be spring, even when the calendar says fall. Gold light across the porch rail, the smell of cut grass from 3 houses over, and the soft rattle of wind against my chimes. I had washed the good plates and set out a lemon cake from the bakery down on Maple, because that's what mothers do on their birthdays. We make sure everyone else has something sweet. My son Daniel had disappeared for most of the day. He's 23 now, taller than me by a head, with those earnest shoulders that still seem to be learning how to carry the weight of his kind heart. He said he had errands, which in Daniel speak means, don't ask questions. I was in the kitchen scraping frosting from the mixer whisk when the front door opened, and Daniel stepped in with that look, proud but pretending not to be. The same face he made the first time he rode his bike without training wheels. His palms were empty. No flowers, no bag. Just a small key on a worn leather tag and a note folded once, carefully. "Happy birthday, Mom," he said, handing me the key like it was glass. "What's this to?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Follow me," he said, dimples deepening. We didn't go far, just next door, across our shared hedgerow, where the honeysuckle grows too wild, to the detached garage that belongs to my neighbor James. I'd learned the rhythm of life in this neighborhood by sound. The trash cans in the morning, kids bouncing balls, and James's workshop hum of saws and sandpaper. He's the kind of man who tips his hat even when he doesn't wear one. The garage door was down, but warm bulbs glowed along the eaves. Daniel gestured toward the side door. "Go on, Mom." The key. My hand trembled as I put it in the lock. Inside, it smelled like cedar and coffee. The workbench was clear. A first. And under a muslin sheet sat something roughly chair-shaped. A ribbon the color of a robin's egg was tied around the top. I lifted the muslin. It was a rocking chair, but that word was too small for it. Maple, pale and warm, the grain shimmering like silk. The arms were carved to fit a palm, as if they'd been measured around mine. And burned into the crest rail, in my father's handwriting, was my maiden name, Caldwell. My father's old porch swing had collapsed when I was pregnant with Daniel. We'd meant to repair it, but life and loss got in the way. Seeing his script again made my throat ache. "Oh," I managed. James stepped forward. "Happy birthday, Mary," he said in that quiet, grainy voice. "Daniel brought me a few slats from your daddy's swing. Said you used to sit there when you were finding your way again. Thought maybe it was time you had a place that would hold you right. We made it together." Daniel tried to shrug, but his eyes were wet. "I didn't know what to get you, Mom. You always say you don't need anything. But you told me that when life gets loud, the porch is where you listen. I wanted to give you a way to hear again." The record player beside us clicked softly, a saxophone curling through the air. The song that played sounded like a promise made in a kitchen at midnight. My father, my son, my neighbor, all somehow gathered in that moment. The gift said everything without a word. It said, "I see you, Mom. You can sit down now. The world won't fall apart." I sat in the chair. It fit perfectly. When I rocked, it didn't squeak. It sighed. Tears came easy. Daniel rested his hands on my shoulders, the way I used to steady him when he was small. One squeeze said everything he couldn't. "Thank you. It's okay to be happy. James smiled softly. We can oil it again if it feels dry. I laughed and cried at once. That's the kind of man he is. Gentle and practical all at once. Daniel went home to check the cake, leaving us in that cedar, scented quiet. Another gift. You got the loops right, I said, brushing my fingers over my father's name. Your son brought me an old ledger from the attic, James said. I traced it until my hand learned it. It's exactly personal enough, I replied. We stood side by side, silence soft between us. Respectful. Present. He didn't move closer like in the movies. Just stood near, the kind of nearness that feels like peace. People bring me broken things, he said. I make them sturdy again. The pieces tell you where they want to go. People aren't always so clear, I said. No, he agreed, smiling gently. But sometimes we say things with what we make. The chair felt like a reply to a question I'd never dared ask. A way to rest that didn't mean I was done moving. Later, Daniel brought cake, and we laughed when the frosting slid on the plate. We ate slices on shop rags because there weren't any clean plates. Lemon and cedar. Sweet and sharp, a flavor like something new. When James handed me a napkin, our fingers brushed. Just for a second. Enough to feel something spark alive. I'm better with chisels than sentences, he said. Me too, I replied. But we're doing okay. When Daniel left us with a knowing grin, James looked at the chair instead of me. If you'd like to come by sometimes, just to sit, even if I'm working, you'd be welcome. My heart turned over softly. I'd like that, I said. Respect is its own kind of embrace. I felt it like a shawl over my shoulders. Not a claim, but an invitation. That night I walked home with the key in my pocket, and a warmth in my chest that felt like permission. The note Daniel left read, "You always give us a place to land. I wanted to give you one too." The wind chimes fussed, then settled. For the first time in a long time, I let the quiet stay. The next morning, sunlight poured through my curtains. My body still remembered the rhythm of the chair. I read Daniel's note again. A place to land. Later, I found myself walking to James's garage, the key still in my pocket. He looked up from his work. Calm and sure. "Chair treating you well?" he asked. "It treated me so well I almost didn't want to leave it," I said, smiling. "Blame's fine if it means you're resting," he replied. "You've done enough running." His words settled in deep. I watched his hands. Strong but careful. The kind that could hold something fragile without breaking it. "Do you ever build things for yourself?" I asked. "Not often," he said. "Most of what I make goes out the door. But lately, I've thought about making space for things that stay." We talked about music, about loss, about small joys that make life bearable. And somewhere in between, something unspoken began to grow, steady, respectful, real. I ran my hand over the chair's smooth curve. "This feels like more than a chair," I murmured. "It is," he said. "It's a place. And places matter. They remind us we belong somewhere." "I don't know what comes next," I said quietly. "You don't have to," he answered. "Sometimes just being here is enough." And in that little cedar, scented room, time stretched, giving us space to breathe. When I walked home, lighter than before, I realized the gift wasn't the wood, or even the chair. It was the opening, the invitation to live again. That evening, I sat on my porch, the key warm in my palm. Daniel leaned on the railing. "So?" he said. "Did you like your gift?" I smiled. I loved it. It was perfect. The chair might have been carved from wood in memory, But the true gift was the space it opened. In my home, in my heart, in the path ahead. Where words weren't needed. Where presence was enough. Where love, quiet, patient, enduring, finally had room to sit.